right, welcome to Macbeth, known as the Bard's Play or the Scottish Play. We start off Act 1, Scene 1 with a very short scene, but a very important scene setting up one of the bigger themes of the play. So we enter into a field, there's thunder and lightning, a storm is going on, and we see three witches. They're having a conversation, and they're asking when they shall meet again. In thunder, lightning, or in rain, when the hurly-burly's done, when the battle's lost and won, that will be ere the set of sun, where the place upon the heath, there to meet Macbeth. So they're talking about when they're going to meet again. There's a storm going on, but also there is a battle going on, and they say that they will meet after the battle has been lost and won, right? There's always a victor and a loser on either side of a war. However, more importantly, they are looking to meet Macbeth, okay? They're going to tell him something. They got some sort of purpose for trying to find him, and I'm curious as to what it is. The first witch she calls Grey Malkin, which would be her familiar. It's a cat. Paddock calls as the second witch. That is her familiar. That is a toad, and familiars for witches are like kind of pets that help them with their spells and stuff. They all kind of leave, and their final thing that they say in unison is fair is foul and foul is fair, however through the fog and filth is hover through the fog and filthy air. And now that fair is foul and foul is fair is a line that is important in literature and very important in Macbeth. So we're going to remember that line. We're going to move on to scene 2 since it's so quick, scene 1, and we enter another field. This is just off a battlefield, actually. There's trumpets and battle sounds being made all over the place, and we enter with King Duncan. So King Duncan is the king of Scotland. We enter with Malcolm, which is his eldest son, and Donalbain, which is his youngest son, and Lennox, who would be a soldier and attendant of Duncan. There are other attendants around, but more importantly, we have a captain. He's wounded, he's bleeding, and he has a message to deliver to the king. So the scene starts by Duncan saying, "What bloody man is that? He can report as seemeth by his plight of the revolt the new estate." So based on his wounds, it looks like he was just at this battle. He should be able to report what is happening. Malcolm confirms that. He says, "This is the sergeant who, like a good and hardy soldier, fought against my captivity." So he's fighting to save me from being captured. He's brave. He deserves all the honor and praise that we give him. And then they ask him, "What has happened? Say to the king the knowledge of the broil as thou didst leave it." So he's saying, tell us what happened. The captain starts by saying, "Doubtful it stood." So the scene, the battle, it looked like we weren't going to win. Okay, it was like two spent swimmers that do cling together and choke their art. I love that line because it strikes great imagery with me. Imagine you're swimming and swimming and swimming in a big ocean with your friend, and eventually you both get so tired that you kind of try to cling to each other to keep afloat. That's what was going on, okay? It looked like they were going to lose. We realize, or we are informed, that it was the merciless MacDonald who is fighting them. So MacDonald is a traitor, a rebel. He used to be a Scottish soldier. He's defected. He has many people supporting him from the Western Isles, so that's kind of like Ireland is protecting him. Or is fighting with him, and this is what they're up against, and they are on the ropes, but all's too weak for brave Macbeth. And so this, the very first adjective we hear attached to Macbeth, is that he is brave, he is courageous, and it is well deserved, okay? He shows up, he's ready to fight, disdaining fortune, so not even caring about luck or favor or if he's going to win or not. He brandished his steel, so that's a sword, which smoked with bloody execution. So it was ready, it was probably soaked in blood, maybe since the blood is so hot, and maybe it was a cold night, maybe it's smoking a little bit, maybe it's giving off a little bit of steam, maybe that steam is red. That's kind of the image I paint. So the very first image that we get of Macbeth is this brave soldier in a field, a battle of odds against him, and he's not scared. He's ready to fight, okay? And with valor, he carved out a passage until he faced the slaves. So he fought and fought and fought until he got to MacDonald, and then those two fought. He didn't. He didn't even have, it was such a short battle that it didn't even like take enough time to shake hands or anything, right? It was over that quickly, and I love this line, even though it's a little bit gruesome. It really showcases the violence and strength that Macbeth possesses. He unseams MacDonald, and unseam means he cut him from his nape to the chop, so from his belly button to his chin, and fixed his head upon our battlement. So he cut him from his stomach all the way up to his neck, cut his head off, and placed it on the Scottish side of the battle to kind of hold as a trophy, or to maybe scare anybody else off. Duncan loves that news. He says, "Oh, valiant cousin, worthy gentleman." Perfect. And the captain, he speaks a little bit more. He says, as the sun was starting to come out, as the storm was breaking, so that is kind of imagery and symbolization as well, right? The stormy, dark, rainy clouds represents bad luck, right? Maybe misfortune, and all of a sudden the sun's starting to peek out. Maybe there's a little bit of light. Just as justice had been taken against Scotland, the Norwegian king showed up. Okay, he was kind of far off in the distance. He was surveying the battle, and as soon as this battle was over, Norway interrupted to fight Macbeth, or to fight Scotland. So Duncan says, dismayed, not this our captains. So didn't this make our captains, Macbeth and Banquo? And Banquo was Macbeth's best friend, kind of confidant in this play. They're always kind of fighting together. Did this not frighten them? And the captain says, like, oh, yeah, it definitely frightened them. It frightened them as much as a sparrow might frighten an eagle, or a rabbit might frighten a lion, aka not at all. They were not scared. Okay, they started to fight twice as hard, 4 times as hard, redouble, so they doubled up twice, and they were ready to fight despite them having wounds all over their body. They were ready to take down the Norwegians. And he's about to kind of continue on his story, but he's like, you know what? I'm faint. My wounds, my gashes, they cry for help. I cannot continue. And then Duncan says, you know what? Your words as well as your wounds smack of honor, okay? They are honorable. Go get him a doctor. You've done enough. So the captain leaves, and Ross and Angus, they show up. They are both Thanes, so basically they're lords of Scotland. And Ross and Angus would literally be the Thane of Ross and the Thane of Angus. So we don't get their real names. For example, Macbeth at the moment is the Thane of Glamis. So if he was just a side character, he would be Glamis. But we know that his real name is Macbeth. So these two show up. They have news to tell. Lennox says it looks like they have news to say. They have haste in their eyes. They're ready to speak something strange. And then Ross says, God save the king. Duncan says, where did you come from? And Ross says, Fife. Okay, I came from the battlefield where the Norwegian banners flooded the sky and fan our people cold. Okay, so they are imposing their will. People are scared. Soldiers are maybe a little bit disheartened. Norway himself, so the king was leading terrible numbers, many people, assisted by another traitor of Scotland, the Thane of Cawdor. And they started fighting, okay? However, Macbeth, he comes in, shot for shot, arm against arm, battle for battle, strike for strike. He matched the Norwegian army perfectly. And you know what? Because of his vigor and his determination, he actually scared off the Norwegians, and Scotland, were victorious. Duncan says, great happiness. Ross says that now Sweno, the Norway's king, craves composition. So after he lost, Norwegian king tries to strike a deal with him to get his dead men off the field so they can bury him, which the Scottish people, which Ross denied, unless Norway paid Scotland $10,000 for them to use. Duncan then says, no more of Thane Conador shall deceive, so I will not tolerate betrayal or deception. I'm going to kill the Thane of Cawdor, and his title, I am going to greet Macbeth. So Macbeth has now become the Thane of Cawdor. Ross says, I'll see it done, so Ross is going to go off and find Macbeth to tell him that he is now the Thane of Cawdor, and Duncan's final words for this scene is, what he hath lost, so he's referring to the Thane of Cawdor, what he hath lost, noble Macbeth has won.